In the past, I've struggled to make friends because of the difficult experiences I've been through. To put it plainly, I faced mistreatment from my father after losing my mother and sister at a young age, which caused me to withdraw and feel disconnected from others. Despite this, about 2 years ago, I, a 27-year-old male, started talking to someone online, a 26-year-old female, who stood out to me because she didn't judge me like others had. She was also a bit unconventional, and we found ourselves laughing at each other's silly antics every day. Over time, we grew comfortable sharing more personal things with each other. I've had friends before, both online and offline, but this person felt like my best friend, someone I could confide in without fear of judgment, someone I could share laughs and offensive jokes with, someone who was always there for me. What made it even more special was that our interests were quite different. She enjoyed spending time with her dogs, making wax, watching movies, going for walks, camping, and working. I, on the other hand, was pretty much the opposite in terms of my interests. I'm not really the type to leave my room much. Technically, I'm disabled because of complex trauma PTSD, so I spend my time playing video games and occasionally playing guitar. You'd think our worlds would be completely different, but surprisingly, we never ran out of things to talk about. She never pushed me to change or called me lazy. I have a somewhat embarrassing confession: sometimes I would just lie in bed and cry for an hour, not because I was sad but because I felt such warmth, acceptance, and genuine care from this person. It meant so much to me. As our friendship grew, she started opening up to me about something she was going through. Her husband had been cheating on her repeatedly, and it was taking a toll on their relationship. He was her first and only partner, and they had been together for 9 years. Despite his infidelity, she remained faithful throughout. I did my best to be there for her, offering a shoulder to lean on and encouraging her to consider reconciliation if it would make her happy. But in the end, she realized that his cheating had destroyed their marriage, and they decided to separate. As the months went by and our friendship approached the 1-year mark, she began depending on me more. Our text chats turned into voice calls and then video calls. Before we knew it, we were calling each other all the time. I had a nocturnal lifestyle, so despite the time zone difference between us, she was American and I was Australian, we were usually awake at the same hours and would stay up together. It seemed like she had developed feelings for me, and it turned out I was right. After knowing each other for about a year, I received a letter from her in the mail. In the letter, she poured her heart out and confessed her love for me. She expressed her desire to be in a committed relationship with me, explaining that she had never felt this way about anyone before. She made a sincere promise that if I chose to be with her, she would stick by my side and never leave. She understood my situation: I didn't have a job and wouldn't be receiving government support. She knew about my trauma and how I rarely left the house, as she witnessed it firsthand during our calls. Surprisingly, she even offered to pay for my plane ticket to come and live with her. While I had developed strong feelings for her too, the idea of traveling to the other side of the world for a relationship made me anxious. I wanted to be with her, but I felt like I needed time to work on myself and learn to love myself more. However, I want to make it clear that I felt the same way about her. In fact, there was a girl nearby whom I wanted to meet up with around the same time. She mentioned that we should watch Star Wars together, but it was clear she wanted our relationship to go beyond just that. I made the decision to cut ties with someone I knew locally and chose my best friend instead. I told her that although I wasn't comfortable labeling us as being in a relationship at the moment, I felt the same way she did. I assured her that I would be open and honest about the people I talked to and I wouldn't emotionally involve myself with anyone else. I wanted to be exclusive and committed to her. It's just that I needed some time to improve my situation before making our relationship Facebook official. We started spending more and more time on calls and video chats. We were so into each other that we would even stay on the phone while she slept or while she was at work. I know it might seem a bit unusual to be on the phone all the time, it's not for everyone, but it's something we both really wanted. We never grew tired of each other's company. When she came home, we would watch movies together. She even got a PS4 to play video games with me. We built a virtual home in Minecraft and continued to share laughter. However, I noticed that certain jokes that used to be fine were no longer okay. In the past, she would laugh at inappropriate jokes I made, but now they hurt her feelings. It took me a while, but I eventually realized this and stopped making those kinds of jokes. I could tell that things were getting serious for her. One thing about my depression is that sometimes I go through phases where I shut down for a while. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can be quite frequent around the anniversaries of my mom and sister's passing, on my birthday, and on my mom's birthday. I feel particularly sad, so during those times I would be less talkative. She noticed this, and I could see that it affected her too. During the middle of this year, things took a turn for the worse for me. I started spending a lot of time in my housemate's room, watching a TV show together. This bothered her a bit because there were times when I would spend the entire night in his room, either watching the show or playing a game. I also made some posts on Reddit asking if anyone wanted to play multiplayer games with me. Sometimes I would let her know that I was going to play a game with someone. It wasn't a constant thing, I would go through phases where I'd engage in these activities. I always kept her informed about what I was doing. When things were going well between us, they were really good. However, she would get really down if I spent time away from her. I appreciate feeling needed, but I didn't want to negatively impact her mental state. Then, around my birthday, we had a major argument. It was the first time in 2 years that we had such a big fight. I was having a really tough week, and she was already upset because I'd been spending more time recently playing games with other people and watching TV with my housemate. We were still on a call, but sometimes it would drop while she was working and she wouldn't call back. As a result, we weren't on the call as much. During this time, she kept telling me that she wanted to end the relationship, but I was trying to avoid discussing that. She was expressing that she felt like I didn't care about her, but I dismissed it, claiming that I didn't have the energy to deal with it. I said something along the lines of, "There doesn't have to be anything wrong. I'm here. If you want a problem, we can have a problem, but I'm ready to go back to normal whenever you are." Looking back, I realize it was dismissive, but at that moment, I was just so tired. When she asked me where I had been, I told her that if she wanted to, she could have called me, and I was just doing what I wanted. She responded by saying that she needed me more than I needed her and that she was reaching a breaking point. As a result, we stopped talking for a few days. She became really distant and cold, colder than she had ever been before. I reached out to apologize, but she suggested that we should talk less. We didn't talk for another day, but she would send me upset messages frequently. I started calling her, desperate to know what was wrong and expressing that I didn't want to lose her. Whenever I reached out, she would soften up and start crying, only to quickly become cold and distant again. The cycle of opening up and then shutting down repeated for about a week. Finally, she confessed that during the time we weren't talking, she went on Tinder and found someone who looked like me and slept with him. She explained that she initially thought I wasn't coming back, so she wanted to temporarily replace me with this person. She went to his house under the pretense of playing video games together, and he bore a striking resemblance to me. According to her, he had mentioned on Tinder that he hadn't left his house in 4 years, and that's when she decided to meet him. She insisted that throughout the encounter, she was thinking of me and constantly checking her phone. If I had messaged or called her at any point, she claimed she would have left immediately and reached out to me. Needless to say, I'm devastated by this revelation, but it does provide some explanation for her cold behavior in the following days. The coldness started to fade, but there are still moments when she sinks into these low moods. I stay on the call with her, and we are both miserable. She shares screenshots of this guy asking where she is, and she responds by telling him that she used him, never intending for things to turn out the way they did. She expressed nothing but disgust and regret about their encounter and about him. She has blocked him and offers me access to all her account information if it will help. I check her email and discover a hidden Discord account with deleted recovery emails. I do a password reset and confirm that it did happen, not just once as she claimed, but 3 times. She describes these experiences to random people as if they were the most amazing moments she's ever had. What's worse, she talks about me like I'm a useless burden who can't take care of himself. While there might be some truth to it, I am making an effort, and I never felt judged by her. I confront her about it, and she admits that she did try to hide that account and made those negative comments about me. She was hurt and angry. So now, it has been about 900 hours and we've been on a call the whole time. I can honestly say that my love for her hasn't diminished, but I don't feel the same anymore. I just feel sick, but at the same time, I'm struggling to deal with what happened. Part of me blames myself, thinking that I could have prevented it and that I didn't make our relationship boundaries clear enough. Then another part of me says no, screw that. We did have defined boundaries, and if you truly love someone, you don't intentionally hurt them. If she wasn't happy with our situation, there were better ways for her to communicate that without being so cruel. So, if you've made it this far, rest in peace. What do you think? Was it cheating? Is it normal that a month later, I still feel terrible? Should I reconsider moving to the other side of the world for this person? Second story. My girlfriend of 7 years cheated on me. I had my suspicions throughout our relationship because I caught her multiple times being unfaithful and talking to other guys. The signs were there from the beginning. Whenever we had a breakdown, we would talk, and she would promise to change, but it would always happen again. Unfortunately, I foolishly chose to stay. On Thursday night, something felt off after we had an argument while I was at work on the night shift. I couldn't shake the feeling, so I decided to check my home security cameras. I noticed a car parked a few houses down that hadn't moved for a while, which raised my suspicion. Then I saw a guy getting out of the car and walking towards my neighbor's front porch, eventually making his way to the side of my house. I decided to check my pet cam in the living room, which is fixed on my dog's pen. I noticed that she had turned off the microphone function, so I remotely turned it back on without letting her know. And that's when I heard everything. Although I can't say I'm surprised that this happened again, I'm still devastated. On Friday night, I confronted her about it. She cried a lot and admitted to sleeping with this guy twice. When I asked why she would bring another man into my home and into my bed, she confessed that it wasn't our bed. I asked where it happened, and she admitted it took place in my teenage daughter's bed. I feel completely betrayed and humiliated that this occurred in my own home, in my kid's room. The level of disrespect is crushing me, and I don't know how to move forward. She blamed all the problems in our relationship on me and how my insecurities drove her to cheat, but conveniently left out all the times my insecurities were a direct result of her infidelity. I'm fed up. We are financially committed with joint bills and a dog. My daughter, who visits every other weekend, has developed a close relationship with her over the years, and she chose her room to bring a stranger into. It's devastating, and I want to move forward, but I feel completely stuck. I'm scared of change. My ex-wife cheated on me, and it feels like my life has been filled with a constant string of betrayals. I feel shattered, worthless, and inadequate. I try to be kind in life, giving myself to the people I meet. I don't deserve this kind of pain. I'm sorry if my thoughts are all over the place. I just needed to express this because I don't have anyone else to talk to. I've isolated myself. Third story. Get ready for a long story. So, around 2 years ago, I, a 34-year-old female, discovered that my boyfriend, a 35-year-old male, had been subscribing to an adult content-sharing site for about 6 months. One of the profiles he subscribed to belonged to a girl he had briefly dated and slept with before we got together. He had been messaging multiple accounts on and off and even asked one of them if she would consider making a video with a fan. During that time, we weren't having regular closeness, and this was a concern for me. I'd been asking if there was anything we could do to improve our situation, if he had any fantasies or if he wanted to watch adult movies together, etc. However, he kept insisting that he was tired, there was no issue, and he wasn't into adult movies. Since he seemed pretty vanilla in the bedroom, I believed his explanation. This went on for about 3 months, and I repeatedly asked if something was wrong or if there was someone else in his life. Then, one night, I had the urge to check his phone, specifically his internet history, and there it was, his OnlyFans account with all his subscriptions and direct messages. I felt like I was going to pass out. I locked myself in the bathroom, and he asked if I had been looking at his phone. It was clear that he had left it unlocked, and the first thing I saw was the OnlyFans app. We had a discussion, and I asked to see his phone again and go through everything, but he refused. He brought up his childhood trauma as an excuse and claimed he didn't know what he was doing. I was hurt, confused, and furious. In my eyes, he had been cheating. He had lied repeatedly about it and even borrowed money from me at times because his salary isn't great, yet he was spending money on this. His main argument was that he didn't think about the consequences and, for a while, he didn't see it as cheating. Do I consider it cheating? Absolutely. It's infidelity because he lied about it, kept it a secret, and, hello, he had previously slept with one of the girls he was subscribed to and was messaging her anyway. We managed to work things out, and he agreed to seek counseling for his childhood trauma, and then we would go for couples counseling. He attended a few sessions for his personal therapy, but he never fully committed, and the couples counseling was put on hold until he sorted out his own issues. He claimed he couldn't handle both at the same time and needed to focus on himself first. Meanwhile, we bought a house. Things seemed to be getting better, and I started to regain my trust in him. It felt like a now or never moment, and initially, it felt great. But then last summer, a little over a year after our previous confrontation, I discovered that he had been secretly watching X-rated movies once again. Our closeness had declined, and I felt that he wasn't being upfront about things, so I started asking if something was going on. Finally, after a few weeks, he admitted to watching those movies but not through the OnlyFans platform. Okay, that's fine, but I wished he had told me earlier. We could have watched them together, maybe. But no, it wasn't just watching X-rated movies. He was also visiting his ex's Twitter and other online accounts to look at her explicit pictures. However, he claimed that he wasn't visiting her OnlyFans account, as if that made it okay. It felt like he had a "so what's the problem" attitude. I couldn't take it anymore. The constant lying was unbearable. I hated that I had to extract the truth from him over a long period of time, and it drained me emotionally. Whenever I brought it up, he would bring up his childhood trauma, forcing me to set aside my own feelings because he couldn't handle anything else. He even mentioned having thoughts of ending his life, so I said fine, get your counseling, and then we'll reassess our situation and maybe consider couples counseling. For the past 4 months or so, he did attend counseling for himself. I have no idea how it went because he doesn't share that with me. Whenever I try to talk to him about it, he says it's not the right time or he's not able to discuss it. His individual counseling has recently concluded, and we are supposed to start couples counseling in the next 4 weeks. At this point, I'm feeling completely done. If we didn't own a house together, I probably would have left him already. His actions have seriously damaged my self-confidence, and I may need counseling for myself, but I've been too busy with work and renovating the house to make time for it. I think I'm also scared that if I stop and really think about everything, I'll fall apart, and I can't afford that right now. I genuinely love this guy and saw a future with him, but it feels like he's torn my heart out and stomped all over it, not just once but twice. I find it hard to trust him, and I think he's still visiting those sites, although I can't be certain. He also has some health issues, like a hernia or something, which affects our closeness. It's really tough for me. We have a decent friendship, and we manage to live together without major issues, probably because we don't have meaningful conversations anymore. But when we have to attend events or gatherings as a couple, I'm filled with hurt, anger, and jealousy, and it's truly awful. I know I'm not perfect, but before the first betrayal, I was loving, caring, and adventurous in the bedroom. I was the one who felt frustrated by the infrequency and his lack of excitement in the bedroom. Before the first discovery, I trusted him completely, and he'd never felt insecure in our relationship. It was a beautiful relationship where we could have honest conversations and shared values. But since the second discovery, I've been feeling so empty, except for the moments when doubt and rage consume me. I feel deceived. He went to great lengths to hide his lies the second time around and has consistently lied to me. I don't trust him anymore, and I don't like the way I feel when we go out together as a couple. It seems like he's holding on until the house renovation is finished, almost acting like a martyr whenever we discuss splitting up. He might say he'll stay and complete the renovations for me before leaving, and sometimes I wonder if leaving is a euphemism for ending the relationship. The house situation is complicated because he didn't have enough savings for the deposit, so I put it down and we split the mortgage payments. As I'm typing this, I'm realizing there were so many red flags, and I feel foolish and easily deceived. I'm going to try couples counseling in the hope that it might provide some answers or at least help facilitate a respectful breakup. I feel like he still doesn't see his actions as cheating since he didn't physically meet or sleep with someone else, but to me, it absolutely feels like cheating.